9,600 international units. That's the daily vitamin D dose one popular doctor tells people they need. The safe ceiling set by the national academies is 4,000, and for most healthy adults, the recommended amount is 600. That gap isn't a rounding error. It's the difference between a habit that helps you and one that can quietly stack calcium in places it was never meant to go. I've spent years in the emergency department watching what daily routines do to people over decades. The honest ones, and the ones only dressed up as honest. So let's walk through a real longevity routine, keep what holds up, and throw out what's just said with confidence. Here's how I'll do this. First, the daily habits I actually believe in, the ones with real evidence behind them, explained simply. Then the part that matters most, the popular habits I've quietly stopped believing, including that vitamin D number, because a bad habit dressed up as a healthy one is more dangerous than an obvious vice. And finally, the handful of things worth measuring so you're not just guessing. The stuff worth stealing is genuinely simple. The stuff worth dropping might surprise you. Let's start with what I actually do. I use good olive oil, and I don't apologize for it. Not shots of it, not drowning every plate in it, just real extra virgin olive oil as my main fat most days. Here's why it earns its place, and it's not a slogan. Extra virgin olive oil is loaded with compounds called polyphenols, and think of those as premium food for the trillions of helpful bacteria living in your gut. Those bacteria break the polyphenols down into anti-inflammatory compounds your body can actually use. This isn't fringe. In a large Mediterranean diet trial in Spain, people who ate a diet rich in extra virgin olive oil had better heart outcomes and, in follow-up work, better preserved thinking as they aged than people on a low-fat diet. So the olive oil is real. What's not real is the idea that you should pour it on everything like a magic potion. It's a good fat, not a cure. Buy a genuine extra virgin bottle, use it as your everyday oil, and skip the theatrics. Quick buying tip, because the shelf is full of fakes. Look for a dark bottle, a recent harvest date, and a peppery little kick at the back of your throat when you taste it. That peppery bite is literally the polyphenols. No bite, no benefit. Next, I walk after I eat, and this is the highest return small habit I know. A 10 to 15 minute walk after your biggest meal does something specific. When you eat, your blood sugar rises. Your leg muscles are like sponges, and a walking muscle soaks that sugar right out of your blood, blunting the spike without a single pill. It's simple, it's free, and for anyone watching their blood sugar, it's one of the most useful 10 minutes in your day. No hills required, no gym, just a walk after the meal. I eat fermented foods most days, and here the science actually got more interesting recently, not less. For years the advice was, just eat more fiber, which is true, but incomplete. Your gut bacteria are the ones who process that fiber, and fermented foods feed and diversify that workforce directly. This isn't hand-waving anymore. A Stanford study a few years back put people on a diet high in fermented foods, things like yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, and found their gut microbes grew more diverse and their markers of inflammation went down. More diversity in your gut is a genuinely good sign. So a daily spoonful of real sauerkraut, a cup of plain yogurt or kefir, some kimchi, these are cheap and they earn their place. One honest note, because you'll hear strong claims about certain milk proteins being inflammatory. That science is unsettled, so don't stress about it. Just favor plain, unsweetened, real fermented foods over the sugary stuff, and you've got the part that's actually proven. And while we're here, your black coffee, your tea, and a square of dark chocolate are quietly on your side too, because they're rich in those same polyphenols. The catch is what you add. Load the coffee with sugar or the chocolate with milk and filler, and you undo the good part. Dark and mostly unsweetened is the version that counts. I strength train a couple of times a week, and I want to reframe why, because it's not about looking a certain way. From about 30 on, a little muscle slips away each year, and past 60 it slips faster unless you actively push back. Here's the part that should get your attention. Grip strength and how fast you walk are two of the best simple predictors we have of how long and how well a person will live. Not because your hands need to be strong, but because they're a window into your whole body's muscle and nervous system. Muscle is like a retirement account you can still pay into at any age. 2 sessions a week, working the big muscles of your legs and hips and back, plus enough protein to build with, and you're protecting the exact thing that keeps you climbing your own stairs and carrying your own groceries into your 80s. On the protein, keep it simple. Aim for a palm-sized portion of something protein-rich at each meal, and don't dump it all at dinner. Older bodies use protein best when it's spread across the day. A couple of eggs in the morning does more than a big steak at night with nothing before it. That's not vanity, that's independence. And I protect my sleep, because sleep is when your brain cleans itself. During deep sleep, your brain runs a kind of overnight rinse cycle, flushing out waste products that build up during the day, including the ones linked to dementia. Now, I'll be honest and not oversell this. The science on that cleanup system is exciting, but still being worked out, and one bad night is not going to give you Alzheimer's. But the direction is clear. Consistent, sufficient sleep protects your brain. The single best lever is a steady wake-up time, the same every day, weekends included, because your wake time sets your whole body clock. Aim for 7 to 8 hours, and finish eating a couple of hours before bed so your body can rest instead of digest. One honest note on sleep pills, since we're on supplements. If you use melatonin, more is not better here either. A small dose, often half a milligram to 1 milligram, is usually plenty, and the giant 5 and 10 milligram gummies can leave you groggy without helping you sleep any deeper. Melatonin is a timing signal, not a sedative. Low and early beats big and late. That's the routine I stand behind. None of it is exotic. Now for the part I really made this video for. Here are the popular habits I've stopped believing. And this is the section to send to anyone in your family who takes supplements on faith. Let's start with that vitamin D number, because it's the clearest example of confident advice that can actually hurt you. Vitamin D matters, especially for older adults. It supports bone strength, muscle, and fall prevention. And that part is genuinely true. But the dose being thrown around online, 9 or 10,000 units a day as a routine, is not what the evidence supports. And it's above the level health authorities consider safe without a doctor watching. The recommended amount for most adults is 600 units, 800 if you're over 70. The tolerable upper limit, the ceiling you shouldn't cross on your own, is 4,000. And in 2024, a major expert group concluded that most healthy adults under 75 don't need routine vitamin D supplements at all. So what actually happens if you megadose for years? Vitamin D pulls calcium into your blood. Take too much for too long, and calcium can climb too high, a state that stresses your kidneys and can deposit calcium in your arteries and soft tissue, exactly where you don't want it. I've seen the downstream of that. Here's the honest, useful version of this habit. If you're worried about your vitamin D, don't guess and don't megadose. Ask for a simple blood test, the 25-hydroxy vitamin D test. If you're low, 800 to 1,000 units a day is a safe, effective dose to correct it, and you recheck. That's it. You cannot out-supplement a guess, and with vitamin D, guessing big is the one that bites. That leads to the bigger belief I want to break. More is not better. It's the assumption underneath almost every supplement mistake I see. People treat vitamins like they're free of downside, so if a little is good, a lot must be great. That's not how the body works. Water-soluble vitamins you mostly just pee out, which makes expensive urine. But the fat-soluble ones, like vitamin D and vitamin A, build up, and too much becomes its own problem. The goal isn't to flood your body with pills. It's to fill actual gaps, which you find by testing, not by guessing. Next, the demonized diet soda. You'll hear that any diet soda is poison that destroys your gut. Let me give you the calmer truth. Is a fizzy water with a splash of vinegar or a squeeze of citrus a better daily drink than Diet Cola? Sure, it is, and if you enjoy it, great. But turning every diet soda into a villain isn't supported, and it makes people anxious about the wrong things. The real target isn't the occasional diet drink. It's the ocean of regular sugar-sweetened soda that genuinely does drive weight gain and blood sugar problems. So don't lose sleep over one diet soda. Do quietly retire the daily sugary ones. That's the swap that actually moves the needle. Here's one that makes cardiologists wince. You'll hear that endurance running scars your heart and wrecks your immune system, usually as a reason to avoid cardio. For the vast majority of people, that is backwards. Regular aerobic exercise, including running, is one of the most powerfully protective things you can do for your heart and your lifespan. Yes, a small number of extreme athletes doing decades of very high-volume racing show some heart changes we're still studying. But that has almost nothing to do with you or me going for a jog or a brisk walk. Do not let a scary headline about ultramarathoners talk you out of the single most protective habit there is. If anything, most people need more movement, not less. And finally, the eating window, because this one gets bragged about in a way that's almost comical. You'll hear someone claim they eat all their food in a 2-hour window, and then, in the same breath, tell you not to try it at home. That's a tell. Here's what the actual research supports. A gentle, daily eating window, somewhere around 10 to 12 hours to start, gives your metabolism a real benefit, steadier blood sugar and improved markers, and it's been shown to be doable even for adults over 60. The benefits are real, but on the modest side, and no study has shown it stretches a human lifespan. So do the sensible version. Whatever time you take your first bite, aim to finish the day's eating about 10 to 12 hours later. Then let the kitchen stay closed. Plain water and black coffee don't break it. And here's the safety part the loud version always skips. Some people should not do this at all. On insulin or certain diabetes tablets, stretching the gap between meals can send your sugar crashing too low. Carrying a history of disordered eating, or already frail or shedding weight you didn't mean to lose, then steady, regular meals are the medicine, not fewer of them. If you're unsure where you fall, ask the doctor who actually knows your chart before you try it. That's the whole point of this middle section. The habits that hurt people quietly are almost never the obvious ones. They're the confident ones, dressed in a lab coat, sold as the secret. Now let's finish with the part that turns all of this into something you can actually run. Here are the things actually worth measuring, because a routine without a dashboard is just a hope. First, know your numbers, the real ones. At your next visit, ask for 4. Your blood pressure, your fasting blood sugar, or your A1C, your cholesterol panel, and, if you're over 60, your kidney function, a number called eGFR. Write them down. Covered by Medicare, that yearly wellness check costs you nothing, and it's the ideal moment to pull these numbers and hand over a written list of every pill and supplement you swallow, that vitamin D included. So one person finally sees the whole board. Hardly anyone claims that visit. Claim yours. Second, measure the things that predict independence, because you can track these at home. Your grip, roughly, is it getting harder to open jars? Your walking, are you slower than you were or unsteady? Your waist, measured at the belly button, trending up or down over months. These aren't vanity metrics. They're early warning lights for the muscle loss and the belly fat that quietly drives so much of what goes wrong later. If your walking speed is dropping or your balance feels off, that's not just aging. That's a signal to add the strength work and the protein, and to mention it to your doctor. And third, protect against the fall. Because for someone over 70, a single fall can end independence overnight. That means the strength training we talked about. It also means standing up in 2 stages when you've been sitting. Edge of the seat, count to 10, then rise. So your blood pressure catches up and your head stays clear. Now let me be clear about who should be careful with the routine itself, because I never want to hand you a plan without the fine print. If you have kidney disease, your protein and even your fluid targets are different, so that's a doctor conversation. If you're on blood sugar or blood pressure medication, and you start moving more and eating in a window, your doses may need to come down, which is a good problem, but it needs your doctor. And any big supplement, before you start it, gets checked against the medications you already take. This isn't about fear. It's about doing the smart version instead of the loud one. Let me tie it into one shape, because scattered tips fall out of your head by dinner. Put it in 3 buckets: what to do, what to drop, and what to check. What to do, and it's boringly simple. Good olive oil as your main fat. A short walk after your biggest meal. real fermented foods most days, strength work twice a week with enough protein, and a steady sleep schedule anchored to one wake-up time. That's the whole routine, and every piece of it has real evidence behind it. What to drop? The megadoses. The idea that more of any supplement is automatically better. The panic over a single diet soda. The fear of ordinary cardio. And the extreme, brag-worthy version of fasting that even the people selling it tell you not to try. And what to check? Your 4 numbers, your grip, and your gait, and your waist. And every supplement bottle in your cabinet, looked at by someone who knows your medications. If only one line survives this video, let it be this. The habits that harm people quietly tend to be the confident ones, not the obvious ones. So be a little suspicious of any health advice that sounds certain, free of trade-offs, and just happens to require the exact supplement being sold to you. There's one more thing, and it may be the most powerful habit of all, and it costs nothing. Connection. When researchers look at the places on Earth where people reliably live long and stay sharp, the one thread that runs through all of them isn't a supplement or a superfood. It's community. People who stay woven into other people's lives, who have someone to eat with and talk to and be needed by, simply live longer and hold on to their minds better. So if you're going to add one thing this week, and you already eat reasonably and move a little, add a person, call the friend, keep the standing lunch, say yes to the thing. And here's your single, small step, because you're not overhauling your life tonight. Pick one item from the do list, just one, and start it tomorrow. The walk after dinner, the good olive oil, the steady wake time. One habit, held for a couple of weeks, changes more than 5 habits you abandon by the weekend. You don't need to be perfect. You're looking for the direction, not the perfect day. And if this saved you from one confident piece of bad advice, share it with the person you love who takes their supplements a little too much on faith. That, quietly, might be the most useful thing you do all week. One walk. One good bottle of oil. One honest blood test instead of a handful of guesses. That's where a longer, sharper life actually starts, not in a supplement aisle,